Hey, welcome back. Another episode of our product backlog management discussions. With me, as always, Mr. Todd Miller. Todd, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. This basically gives me a lot of energy.
It's like a caffeine shot without the coffee, right? We are actually super excited about this series. Recently, Scrum.org launched the new Professional Scrum Product Backlog Management Skills course. We're very excited about it. It gives a lot of good information about managing a product backlog, refining a product backlog, using a product backlog as a competitive advantage, and all those things in between. So be sure to check out the description to learn more about the course. Like and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And Todd, today we're going to chat about levels of decomposition and product backlog items. Mm-hmm. What's this stuff about?
So these are techniques that people use to make transparency around a product backlog. So unfortunately, some of the tooling that is out there kind of forces you into how you do levels of decomposition. And so I think people are doing it maybe not for the sake of creating transparency, but maybe just because the tool has the offering. So we thought that maybe what we would do is just talk through why it's there, how you could leverage it, and maybe why not to leverage it. How's that, Ryan?
I like it.
Yeah.
But Todd, I've always been told you have to have epic, feature, PBI.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So that's probably because that's one of the tools has it. Another tool has it as an epic and a user story. Yep. Ultimately, you could call it whatever you will. Everything is still a PBI. So let's use your example here. We have epic. Maybe we have feature 1 here. Maybe this is feature 2. And so the reason why we're putting it like this is epic, meaning that's the really largest level of abstraction as we can get. This is a really, really big thing. Features are smaller, but still big components of that epic. And then the things that teams are actually bringing into their sprint planning session and putting into their sprint backlogs are the PBIs, product backlog items. So some might call them user stories because that's what the tools say to call them. To us, generically, everything on this board is a product backlog item. It's just.
How are you saying an epic is a PBI?
An epic is a PBI. It just
means feature is a PBI.
A feature is a PBI, just a really big one.
Yep.
Or a medium-sized one.
That's right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So these are levels of decomposition. So you have the big thing, you have the smaller things, or the medium things, and then the small things. And a lot of teams go crazy with this. They really get into, well, we have to have an epic, and that epic has 3 features, and those 3 features have to roll up to achieve the epic. And feature 1 has 8 PBIs, and feature 2 has 3, and feature 3 has 6, and it all must be there, and it all must be complete before we can ship anything at all. And it leads to these really bizarre behaviors. Have you seen that before, Todd?
Yeah, and the idea is it does, and I think it's because roll-up reporting in some of these tools. I think that's what I've seen a lot of the time, which never really is telling a story anyway. But what I think really truly happens is instead of creating the transparency that this was intended to create, it does the opposite. It lacks transparency. So we've always gone by the notion that to simplify yields a richer result. That's a Yvon Chouinard quote. And maybe by removing these, you can create more transparency, right? So again, these are all PBIs. You could call this something else. Some tools might call this feature and call this epic, right? I've seen this big one also called initiative before. And then these were epics of that initiative, right? But by removing these, you can actually simplify it.
Well, I was going to ask you that question, Todd. Once we have this, the big initiative or epic broken down into features, why do you need the epic anymore?
Yeah, really what it comes down to is a lot of people in organizations do it for reporting, and those reports really, what I've seen, aren't really telling you the story of what's happening anyway, right?
So even with levels of decomposition, do we need hierarchies at all? Do you think that's still a required thing?
In a product backlog?
Yeah.
I think it depends. I think the one that we're looking at right now, 3 different levels of hierarchy, 3 different levels of decomposition. Where I've seen this work is when you're working at scale, when there's maybe 10 teams working on something, right? Even then, I've seen it simplified into just using like an epic PBI level of decomposition. Yeah. 3 levels is a lot, right? It's a lot, and then it's going to increase the amount of time you have to maintain in your product backlog, right? We're creating these rules that we have to follow in our product backlog that I think takes a lot of time and sometimes is a waste of time.
I think a key question to ask here, right? And I hope as people are watching this, they start posing this question back. The scheme that we're using, whether it's epic, feature, PBI, initiative, epic, PBI, are we telling a clear, understandable story to our stakeholders and to our Scrum team and to our customers by organizing our work this way?
Yeah.
Right. I think
100%. Is it easy to understand? And if it isn't, simplify. And I think we'll do another video on naming conventions, because you could simply just say and get rid of all this and name this epic PBI name, right?
Yep.
You could use a naming convention. We'll maybe elaborate on that in a future video, but simplify. This is oftentimes what you end up with. A lot of it is because of roll-up reporting or just because your tool has it and you feel like you need to get your money's worth. We are of the belief that you simplify these levels of decomposition as much as possible.
Absolutely. All right. I think that is good for this one. We hope you enjoyed that discussion on levels of decomposition. Be sure to like and subscribe. Never miss a future video. Also, check out the description if you want to learn more about the Professional Scrum Product Backlog Management Skills course. It's brand new. We think you'll love it. Topics like this and many more are discussed in greater detail. Some other videos are going to pop up here. We think they'll help you as well. For Todd, I'm Ryan. Go forward. Think about your levels of decomposition. Are they adding transparency? If they're not, simplify. And we'll see you next time.